So this is one of my studios that I do my print viewing. My name is Rochelle Evanoff, and I'm here at the Collingwood Art Center for the past 10 years. So I have a studio upstairs where I do portraits. Sometimes I do projection portraits. So this is an example where I'm projecting an image that I made onto a model. And here's another one, the same model. So this is new work I've made over the past year. What I do is, so I start with a photograph, and then I have to work on the computer and make a negative. So I have to retouch the image to make a negative that will translate onto the paper. So I'll coat it with the chemistry, and I'll make a historic process of whatever the image calls for, whatever I want to do. Lately I've been working with cyanotype a lot, and I tone it different ways. And so these are also toned cyanotypes. It's a hybrid of the digital negative that I make on the computer, and then I make it whatever size that I want the final print to be. So it's a low cost way of making a handmade photograph. The cyanotype is one of the least expensive. And what the benefit is it's only as expensive as the paper that it's printed on. When I get my image, and then I make the negative of it, after I choose which image to make the print of, I'll make the negative, and then I'll hand coat that chemistry onto paper. The cyanotype is a really simple process. It doesn't need to be fixed. Some of the other processes that I use need to be fixed. These will last for a really, really long time. These models that I've been using lately have been group shoot models. The Collingwood Art Center has group shoots where 20 models will show up and 20 photographers. And you schedule a day, and one day out of a month or one day out of 2 months, I'll shoot models that want to be photographed, and I'll trade them for content. But in 2025, I plan on taking commissions for portraits. I'm in the process of pressing my paper in the heat press here. So let me grab this print. You can see what I'm doing in here. Well, when I make my handmade prints, the paper curls automatically and when it dries. And so to make a flat print, I press it in the heat press. And I'll put the print on the copy stand and document it with a digital camera. And that's how I get it on the internet. There's more artifacts when I scan it that I have to touch up. So there's always going to be some kind of spot in photography that needs to be touched up. So I'll just leave that for now, and I'll take you upstairs. Let me grab my keys. I know I set them down somewhere. So these are mine too. So in this space, I had invited artists. These are mine. All the photographs are mine, but the sculptures are Julia LeBay and Yusuf Lateef collaboration. And then over here are tricolored gum bichromate and infrared silver gelatin prints. I've been trying to narrow down exactly what that I like to do, and they're portraits and landscapes, and anything really that I can get my hands on. I like the photograms because it gets me in my garden to, it's a very intuitive process to make the compositions and add the color. Would you like to see my other studios?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay, I'm gonna just get this door.
You don't have to worry about not being in frame. Anyone can walk through frame. Okay. Last thing I want to be is a nuisance.
Okay, now the light's off up here, so watch your step. This is where I make my prints. So over here is my UV exposure unit. So that's the artificial sun. And I put my negative in this contact printing frame. that opens like this. And so I'll put my negatives in there. I trim the edges on the negatives so the borders don't show. And I can print up to this size. So that's, with this printing frame down here, that's as large as I can go. And so this is my favorite place to be. And when the prints are done, I'll put them on this drying rack. And then once they're dry, I carry them downstairs and put them in that heat press. And there's a normal typical enlarger that I use for the silver gelatin. But you're seeing in my studio in a little bit of disarray right now. Like, I didn't have a liner in my bag, so I put my trash close to it. Like when I got a bag, I put it in there. So here's the dance studio. And it just happens to be here close up to my other studio, so it's nice to hear music and people in here. And if nobody's in here, I can come in here and dance if I want to, but I'm usually too busy trying to finish my work. I think I locked my door. Let's see, I did. Okay. So this was my very first studio. And I always, there you go. Okay. So before I had that studio down there where I plumbed those sinks, I had to transport my water. So I had a big hose and I took it all the way down to that bathroom by those double doors. And then this was the drain tank. I don't have to do that anymore since I have running
through
water.
A lot of water?
Yeah, well, just you fill the trays and then you empty them and then you fill it again. So yeah, you need a lot of water. And this is where I coat my paper. So what I use is freezer paper, and it cleans up nice. But what I do is I just replace the freezer paper when I'm ready to do another print session. So this is where I sign my paper. When I figure out what process I'm going to do, I will sign my name and the year, and that it's a handmade photograph and what type of process I'm using. This is cyanotype Burger Cup 320. That's safe to make paper signed in advance that way. So when I do my coating, I'll wipe it while it's wet, and that's why you see all these like this. This is what it looks like after I clean it up. But these are the chemicals I mix, and I mix enough to cover about 14 prints, and I dry them in these cabinets. So I'll hand coat it with a paintbrush. And then dry it, and then I'll go down to that other studio and get my trays set up, do whatever else I need to do while the paper's drying, and then I have a print session, and I'll make 2-minute exposures to 1 to 3 minute exposures in that UV exposure unit. The longer that you expose it, the darker it gets. In the case of cyanotype, if you make it darker, then you can bleach it and tone it. So it just depends on how you want your final print to look. The prints that are more like a brown color, those were toned in tea. These are just old chemicals. I love giving tours here. See, most of the time I come to work and I just get into my studio and I close the door and I do my work. And then rare opportunities I have to give people tours. Hi. Hi. So this one is my dressing room for my models, and also the table where I do my framing. And then this is my projector lab, or my studio. I mean, I don't do all my portraits with projectors, but this is my projector on my little rolling table. I love it. I project pictures that I took. So far, I mean, I'm not opposed to projecting someone else's image, but in my work I've been projecting my own images. Then I actually took on a trip to the Pacific Northwest. That was All the models that I shot every month this past year, I projected the same images onto them. So it's interesting to see how each of the models related to the images I was projecting. It depends on how they respond to the image, and it's all kind of what I like is the serendipity or the surprise when the picture just happens to work. So I'll project like 100 pictures, and each model responds to the picture in their own kind of way, and whoever ends up with the best looking picture for that image, you know, it's kind of, I've been working with that. That's been fun for me to look and compare. I have various things that I have around, but I don't normally have the baby carriage or my little cook thing there. But I moved it out of the way because I thought it would be okay in here for a while, and it was. So I can move it out of the way. I mean, this on wheels, so
Oh, yeah.
I can use the black backdrop. You know, I can be versatile, and I can shoot all over the building too. So I'm gonna turn this light off now.